Hello everyone, and welcome back to this video diary series on rigging Judy Hopps in Blender. When last I left you, we went ahead and added in some latissimus dorsi bones to help give the sides a nice stretch when you rotate the clavicles. And today what I'm going to do is a bit of cleanup on the mesh, as well as add in some more deformation bones for the neck, the spine, the toes, and we'll be adding in some pelvis bones too, some additional bones for the hips area. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is move these bones a little more towards the center of my mesh. And of course this is going to change the positioning of a few other bones as well, including the hips. So with these bones centered, go ahead and hit 2 on your keyboard to just go to the second layer, and then hit Control Shift Tab to make sure you're set to vertex snapping right here. Another way to do that is to come down here to this icon and select vertex, and then hit G and then Y and then move it forward, and then when your cursor is over the bone, hold Control, then left click to snap it in place. Alright, very good. So now the hips are snapped to that area. Now, I have some bones hidden in edit mode, so go ahead and hit Alt-H to unhide those, and that's the neck. Hit Shift-1 on your keyboard to bring back the mesh, and I'm going to go ahead and center this bone just a little bit more. Obviously now our chest and our hips are angled, which whereas before they were perfectly straight. I figure since our control bones, our animation bones, are going to be straight up and down, we really don't need to worry too much about how these bones are angled, just as long as they're positioned in a way where they will be distributing an even amount of influence over the mesh's geometry. Okay. Alright, so now that that's done, let's go ahead and add in some excuse me, need to get a nice stretch in. Let's go ahead and add in some deformation bones for the neck. So again, go ahead and hit excuse me, hit 2 on your keyboard to isolate that layer. Switch into wireframe mode. Go ahead and duplicate this bone, and what you're going to do now is, let's just go ahead and name it right off the bat. We're going to call it DEF underscore neck. Well, actually, call that DEF neck, and put an A in front of that. Go ahead and duplicate that bone. So by hitting W, or not duplicate, subdivide. So hit W, then subdivide, and it will subdivide it once. This bone should still have the same name as before. Go ahead and select the next bone in the chain, delete that, and make this B. So how this is going to work is the top bone, the def neck B bone, is going to follow the rotations of our head controller once we make that, and this bone will parent it to our neck IK bone, and make sure to keep the offset. We can keep this bone parented to that, but that's essentially how that's going to work. Alright, oh, and make sure those bones are on the proper layer. So with those two selected, go ahead and move them to the deformation bone layer. So now when we turn this off, it disappears. Okay. Next, go ahead and select these 3 bones, duplicate them, and just go ahead and just move them immediately to the deformation bones. Let's hide that layer. Let's bring back our deformation bones, and let's just go ahead and rename them. Thankfully, we don't have to do a lot of renaming because everything is already set up for us. So that's D, E, F, spine. And we can just go ahead and copy that name and paste it in and just switch up the names a bit. A, B, C. Perfect. Alright, now what you want to do is go ahead and select all of these bones and then hit Alt-P to clear their parents. Now, with each of these bones selected, make sure your pivot point is set to individual origins. Let's bring back our mechanism bones and just go ahead and just scale those deformation bones down a little bit just so we can differentiate them from the mechanism bones. Alright, that's perfect. Maybe just a little more. Save early, save often. Last thing you want is for Blender to crash and for you to lose all the work you've done. Now, thankfully, Blender has a pretty good what's the word? Blender has a pretty good darn it, autosaves feature. So if Blender did crash, which it rarely does for me, but I know other people have had issues with it crashing before in the past. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our toe bones. And the way we're going to do this is I'm going to go ahead and turn back on Xmirror. And right now I just have one bone controlling the toes, but I want to have multiple. I really just want to have multiple bones to do that. So the way we're going to do that is, first off, I'm going to go into pose mode and see what I've got going on here. So I've got this following the mechanism toe bone, but we really don't need it to copy the transforms because we can do that easily with a parent as well. So just go ahead and remove those and then bring back the mesh by hitting Shift 1. Let's just go ahead and make it solid. And let's go ahead and turn on the wireframe so we can see this better. And first thing you want to do is clear, in edit mode, clear the parent. And go ahead and subdivide this bone twice. I'm going to go ahead and bring this bone forward a bit. I'm going to move this one to the front, bring this one up to the center as well. And we should see it do the same thing over here. Go ahead and duplicate these bones and move them over just a bit. Yeah, we can keep those straight for now. And then duplicate them over as so. Maybe bring... No, we'll keep them straight for now. I think that's okay right there. Alright, and because we duplicated them from this chain, they are already parented to the main toe bone, which is this bone right here. So we'll just rename this bone main, and make that all caps, main toe bone, and it should do the same thing. Nope, doesn't do the same thing over there. That's fine. And let's just go ahead and rename these. So this is going to be big toe .l. It's going to be, and that's going to be, as always, we're going to A. We can go ahead and copy that name and paste it into here. Make that B. That's going to be A, but this is going to be middle. Copy that name, paste it into here. Make that B. Make this pinky toe. Copy that name, paste it in, and make that B. So, and with this bone selected, let's go ahead and parent it. So go into your bone options and select MCH underscore toe.l. So now this is parented. So let's just go ahead and see how this is working. I'm going to go ahead and keep that on, but I'm going to go bring in my FK bones. And right now, the FK, well, no, not my FK. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my IK bones. And let's just see how this is working. So this is the toe override bone. So if I move this, as you can see, all my toe bones are moving with that override. Alright, very, very cool. So now what we could do is we could just go ahead and rename all these bones accordingly, but I feel that will probably that's really tedious. It's going to take too long, so we're going to do what my favorite thing to do, and we're just going to go ahead and mirror them over. So just go ahead and select them all and delete them, and then select these, duplicate those. Select and as always, go ahead and flip their names. So now they should have different names. So that's R, 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 and R. Okay, so everything is good. Now you're probably wondering, well, first, before I do anything more, let's go ahead and parent this to the mchtoe.r. Very good. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't do what I usually do, which is scale them over on the negative x using the cursor as the pivot point. Well, I've been watching some videos, some rigging videos by a YouTuber called Jorge Bernier 5D. I'll include a link to his channel in the description, and I actually found a much easier way to flip over, and that's using the X mirror. So now that these bones have their names flipped, if I go ahead and select these bones again, and if I just simply hit G, you can see those bones snap exactly where they're supposed to be. In fact, if we go up here and I select my two, let me bring back my driver bones as well. Just see how I select all of these. In the last video I was talking about how these didn't look like they were 100% mirrored. You can see there's a little bit of discrepancy, a little bit of a tilt right here, whereas we get none of that here. If I go ahead and do the same thing, hit G, now you can see those bones rolled exactly into place where they should be. In fact, you can do this for a lot of your armature. Just go ahead and hit G, and now everything should be mirrored over exactly as it should. So it's just a neat little trick that I learned that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay, so that is done. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go ahead and turn off the wireframe on that because we don't really need it. And let's just go ahead and zero out all the transformations. Okay. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is make some pelvis bones for the hips. And this is going to help us with maintain volume in the hips area when our character's legs are at an extreme angle, like when they're up fully or even back, like maybe she's doing like an extreme pose or something when if we have her jumping or running or something like that. So we're going to go ahead and work on that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hide. So if I just hide one of these, I'm going to hide my my buttocks bones. All my bones should be selected at this point. I'm going to go switch to wireframe mode just so this is easier to see, and I'm going to go ahead and take that, just drag it down to right about there. I think is good. Alright, now I'm going to unhide my butt bones, and I'm going to just raise them up a bit, right about there. I think is good, and bring these out a bit and maybe have them more towards the center of our geometry. Alright, good. Now with that done, select this joint and then select this joint right here and then hit face, and that's going to automatically create a bone. And we're going to call this DEF underscore pelvis underscore 01.L, and we're going to duplicate that. We're going to change the name to .R, and with this selected, just go ahead and hit G. It snaps right into place. And let's select both of these and parent them to the hips. Be sure to keep the offset. And now what we need to do first off is make sure they're on the deformation layer, and that's actually and these bones are on the deformation layer too. That's a good thing to check for. This is part of the cleanup process. Alright, now what we want to do is make sure all of our like our FK bones, our driver bones, all that jazz is parented to our hip bones. So we'll start with the driver bones. So make sure that's selected. Go back to deformation and hit Control P, keep offset. Select the IK bone, bring back the deformation bones, select that, Control P, keep offset. Bring back FK bones. The FK bones don't seem to have a parent, which is interesting. Bring back the deformation bones, keep offset, and then finally we've got our mechanism bones and keep offset. Now because we've got X mirror turned on, every change we make to the bones over here will automatically apply to the bones over here while in edit mode. Okay. So now if I just say I bring back the IK bones and I lift that up, so what's going to happen when we add weights to the mesh is because we have these pelvis bones here now, we're going to be able to maintain volume in this area while this leg is up in this position. And furthermore, we'll be able to rotate this we'll add a controller to it as we please to add even more to adjust for any pinching or any weird creases that we might get in the in the deformations. This is another trick I learned from Jorge Bernier 5D using these pelvis bones. I tested it out on another mesh that I have, and it seems to work really well, actually. The only bad thing about it was I had to change up some of the weight painting because of it. But beyond that, it's a really, really nice system. So I would say definitely check out his channel. He's got a bunch of great videos on rigging things like the mouth, the pelvis, the arm. I think he's got one for the spine too, which is different than the way I do it, but it's still it's pretty interesting nonetheless. So I would strongly recommend going and checking out his channel down in the description below. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this video. We've been going for about 21 minutes now. In the next video, which is probably going to be pretty short comparatively, we're going to create an IK, we're going to create a curve that's going to function as the control for our IK spine. Anyway, it's going to do it for now. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace and love.